Dr. Law Mefor,
Yeah.
Anu Yago,
Yes.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Same here.
You're welcome to Njenje Media TV.
Thank you.
Let's take a rundown of 2023 and what do you think about the Tinubu-led APC government?
Well, I don't know whether to say that it is too early to judge him. But he has been around for about 7 months now. And he has taken some far-reaching decisions on virtually every aspect of our national life. And I would want to point out a few of that. And I think from the economy perspective, we can see that right from the inauguration ground, he announced that fuel subsidy was gone.
It was gone. But that plunged us into trouble.
That's a big problem. Some saw it as a demonstration of courage and all that. Yes, courage is good in governance, but it's not enough. You need to be strategic in your thinking and in policy conceptualization and implementation. So I believe that the fuel subsidy removal may be a good policy, but the way and manner it was done without any preparations for it, for me, took whatever advantage that stood for. Then the other was another economic, headwind that came by way of Naira flotation. Floated the Naira at the same time with the subsidy removal, for me, it was suicidal. And since then, Nigerian economy has gone into depression, by my own estimation. And I've been thinking, if you look at the two economic policies, for me, they constitute two major, headwinds that have actually unleashed some negative downturn on the economy. And we have seen the resultant effects in the Naira to dollar exchange, which has now climbed beyond 1,300. It's unprecedented. Tinubu met Naira to dollar at about 700. So if you look at the figure that we have today, it's nearly double of the value that he met. And there is no sign that this will change anytime soon. There are very serious economic measures, counteracting measures that I had expected that he would unleash at the same time to be able to manage effectively the scarce foreign exchange the country earns. Don't forget, we don't earn much through export. Our export is still 75% crude oil dependent. I checked the figures from the Bureau of Statistics, and I could see that up till now, our foreign exchange earnings in terms of export is coming through crude oil up to 75%. In other words, you're not really exporting much. So if you are not exporting much and you are throwing your currency to compete with super currencies like the dollar, the pound, the euro, and others, without any economic base to back it up, you are like a 70-year-old man who married a 70-year-old girl. Certainly somebody else that will have to read the book. In other words, what you may call the value that the country ought to gain from that is not being gained by the country because we are not in a position to do so. There is no economic base to support or to enable Nigeria reap bountifully from those two major economic policies that I have just mentioned. So, in summary for me, Well, there are some deft decisions the Tinubu government uh, has made in terms of governance. I think it's getting governance right. But in economy, it's still terrible. And if you go to security, it's even worse. Nothing much has changed in terms of security.
Many people expected that as he came to Imo State last Monday for the inauguration of Hope Uzodinma for the second term, that he may have made a pronouncement regarding the discontinuation of the case against Nnamdi Kanu. And some felt disappointed that he came to Imo, and that didn't happen. Do you believe, or are you of the school of thought that that case should be handled from the political angle as opposed to the continuation of the judiciary?
Yep. In all my interventions where the case of Nnamdi Kanu came up, I've often advised the government to take the political route. One, following the legal process will take a great deal of time. You can see one simple challenge against his extraordinary rendition from Kenya when traveled up to Supreme Court. And in that process, the actual trial was halted. And the Supreme Court ruled that despite the illegality perpetrated in that it does not stop the trial since it's not physically available. And that has always been my position, that Bint Anyako would not mind however Nnamdi Kanu is brought back before her. And I think that I'm not a lawyer, but in some of the positions and postulations of the law are actually not commonsensical. And I do think that his matter was badly handled right from time when he was brought back and all that. I had expected that we should just downplay completely the aspect of a legal process, downplay it completely, and then get the federal government to discontinue what we call a null prosequi. Because the federal government instituted the trial and has every right to discontinue. This is very fundamental. And I also do think that it is still the process that ought to be pursued, even now, to shorten the whole process. Otherwise, if you follow the legal process, it means that the file, his case file will have to be transmitted again from the Supreme Court back to Bentanyako's court for continuation of his trial. This will take time. And as of last week, my contacts are saying that the files are still in the Supreme Court. So what does this tell you? That the federal government is simply, buying time, so they will keep him there for as long as they want. So what I would recommend is this. What I would recommend, Igbo political leaders, led by, I say led by 3 times, is for emphasis. No other than the governor of Imo State, Senator Hope Uzodinma. You know why I said so? He is the closest to Tinubu now.
And also the chairman of the...
Forget about his chairmanship. The fact is that he's the closest. And he is not quite happy with the Biafra agitation. Himself has been a victim. He's a country home, burnt, his cars, and somebody was even killed there, I think a policeman. I think that men at that level should be a bit more magnanimous and put whatever personal losses they have incurred behind them and come out now and lead the process of ending this trial of Nnamdi Kanu. Because if you follow the legal and legalistic process, if at the end of the day, he doesn't get acquittal in Bentanyako's court, you have 2 options open to him. It means he will now have to appeal. Appealing means another 2-3 years to Supreme Court, to either discharge or we don't have the luxury of that kind of time. What we need to do is to appeal to federal government to discontinue. But I do know that the problem may not just be discontinuation. The problem may be the conditions being attached to the discontinuation. All these things are political and should be negotiated. Is the way to go for Nnamdi Kanu, for Ndi Igbo, for security, for national security and everything. We just have to all come together and end this nightmare.
Okay. So totally, Tinubu is now here for, let's say, 8 or close to 8 months.
Yeah.
If you are to score him from 1 to 100, 100 being excellent, what would be your score? So
well, I am a teacher. I'm sure you know this.
yes.
I will score Tinubu 40%, and I'm sure I am being very, very generous.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, now some people from the north, if you recall, some part of CBN recently has been said is going to move back to Lagos. Some part of the Federal Aviation Agency
Yeah.
is going to move back to Lagos.
Yeah.
Now, some groups within the northern Nigeria are beginning to say that this is a vindictive governance to them. And some even argue that, oh, why is Tinubu doing the same thing that Buhari did to the South? And some are saying, well, na do me, I do you. God no go verse. What do you think?
Yeah, well, for me, a federal system shouldn't mean we have to concentrate the economic, political, social, and cultural strength of the country in one place. Even if you go to the US, you don't find everything in Washington. Things are really distributed here and there based on what you may call a comparative advantage. I believe that the idea of moving a substantial part of CBN to Lagos is economically sound. All the bank headquarters are all in Lagos. Yeah. The economic hub of Nigeria is in Lagos. So for me, I believe it's quite a good plan to do that, take it there. Not the entire CBN, but the substantial part of it. And the people ought to see it from that perspective. Those who are saying that the idea is to weaken the North, the CBN doesn't belong to North, it belongs to Nigeria. And that's very important. And like I said, here is a federal system of government. And in a federalism, you do not have to concentrate everything. The idea of federalism is to draw from your strengths, based on your diversity. You are bringing multi-ethnic nationalities together into an entity. You are doing so for economies of scale, political economies of scale, and so on and so forth. The political economy of Nigeria does not support the concentration of our mainstays here in Abuja. It's not sufficient. Even within Abuja, there should be further decentralization. Ask yourself, here in Abuja, what is the Ministry of Agriculture doing in Garuki? What is the Ministry of Defense doing in Garuki? It doesn't make sense. So we don't have to concentrate everything here. During Buhari, we saw even the transport university is in Daura and all that. So what are they talking about? Is Daura the best place for Ministry of Transport, for University of Transport? But they took it there. I believe that we need to really look at the country holistically and place things where they ought to be for the best outcome. This is what should obtain in a normal federal system of government. And the individuals who are thinking that moving certain things back to Lagos would mean that the North is being diminished. They are being myopic in their own estimation and evaluation of such a core and vital economic policies being pushed by Tinubu.
Well, in line with that, when Festus Kayamo, the Minister of Aviation, posted that on his X account, formerly Twitter, many people argue that in the same vein, he should also argue for oil companies to go back to the South region where he comes from, because that is where they extract the oil. And therefore, in their view, that should be where the headquarters should be. But some also argue that there is no security within that region. Therefore, they should be where security is. What do you think?
That has been the reason. Originally Shell, Chevron, and all that, they all had their headquarters in Port Harcourt. And insecurity forced them to relocate to Lagos and all that, and still fly into Port Harcourt and the South generally for their operations, daily operations. I think the absence of security has been responsible for why you don't have concentration of oil companies, the headquarters in the South, Port Harcourt, and here and there. And we shouldn't take that away. If we guarantee security, they should go back to Port Harcourt. Let me tell you one thing. It's not just the oil majors having their headquarters in the South states like Port Harcourt, Akwa Ibom, Calabar, even Yenagoa. If you check the maritime industry, it is cheaper to import into Nigeria through the eastern ports. But because of the same insecurity, all the importers are routing through Lagos. So it's the same reason, the same insecurity that made the importers not to prefer the eastern ports to western ports, that has led to the relocation of oil majors' headquarters away from the South to Lagos. So I don't see any merit in that argument at all.
So, Chief Dr. Mefor, let's come back to the Southeast. And now, when we come to Southeast, the state of Anambra, you were part of those who championed the emergence of Soludo, and you chaired one of the committees, rather the transition committee, right? One of the committees within the transition committee. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, so far, some people have argued that the governance being provided by Soludo is not in line with what the majority of the people expected. I know you may have seen the video making rounds where a woman, or rather in Oka, where some individuals, their wares were being destroyed, and many argue that that could have been better managed. And also the fracas between the traditional rulers in Anambra State, where many argue that these are matters that ought not to be, in the public, where the Igwe of Neni is almost being threatened to be dethroned because he conferred a chieftaincy title to Dr. Ifeanyuba Ebubechukwu Nanewi. As someone who is, or many can argue that you are part of the inner caucus, but we don't know how close you are to that caucus. So, what's your take in all this, and what's your view of Soludo's governance and governance style in Anambra State?
Well, I think first I want to say that I'm not part of the Soludo government. I was part of one of the many teams that prepared his entry, his grand entry. And that was the Soludo Transition Committee chaired by Obi Ezekwesili. Yes, I chaired a subcommittee called the Inclusive Growth, and we came around our work looking at Soludo's robust manifesto. There's another governmental document that Soludo himself chaired, Anambra 2070, and then a few other documents that we brought together to tease out the blueprint for his takeoff as the transition committee. So that's the extent I would say I am involved, right? Mm-hmm. It's important to establish this because I don't know where the inner caucus is coming from. But Soludo is somebody I know well enough, even before he became the governor of Anambra State. And he's somebody I understand really well. And I believe it was on the strength of that he nominated me to his transition committee. And that said, coming now to the issues you raised, traditional rulers trying to sanitize the Anambra environment, especially Oka, so that it will bear the image of a true state capital and all that. Yes, I agree with those who said that the situation could have been better handled. And I believe that some people who are given certain responsibilities, they will do it to the best of their abilities. And that is it. Because I do believe that, in all honesty, rather than destroy the wares, I would have adopted a different approach. I would have, for example, um, you know, go to those places at night and remove the stalls, because these are table markets, right? It means that they remove their wares
At night, yes.
at night and then bring back in the morning. I will remove those. I will remove the stalls at night after warning them at least 3 times, and making the warnings really public, so that, because it's a matter of perception,
Yeah.
so that the Anambra will understand why I want those places cleaned out and why they needed to relocate. And then after that, I will go at night, Nicodemusly, and remove those things. After removing, first thing in the morning, I will be seated there with mobile courts to try whoever would want to put something up again. I believe that if this approach is taken, very simple as it seems, there wouldn't have been any hula baloo that we are witnessing at the moment. So, of course, Soludo is just one person, and everything that is done, he takes a credit and the blame, right? I guess that is what is going on.
Yes.
Because he didn't go there himself. And I do know that the Soludo I know will not approve that method. He will not. And I do know also that since there is this public outcry, they will have to review their approach to it. The same thing goes to what has happened with the altercations between Soludo and
Igwe Achebe and Igwe Neni.
first the Igweneni and others, and of course it's still not Soludo directly, but indirectly, because he has a commissioner for local government and chieftaincy affairs who is in charge of that brief, and who, for me, again, still could have approached that matter differently. One, he needed to be holistic. Two, he needed to be a bit more diplomatic. And you still achieve the same result without subjecting Soludo to public opprobrium, which I believe is really avoidable. But I read the letter, the reply of Abogidi. His Royal Majesty Igwe Nnemeka Fred Achebe wrote a response to Soludo indirectly, but directly to the commissioner of local government and chieftaincy affairs. And of course, I also read the letter of suspension by the commissioner of local government and the chieftaincy affairs, which triggered all this. I believe the letter was legally right, but you see, it's not everything that is legally right that should be done in every way. There are ways you implement certain things to get the desired result. And again, like I said earlier, if a different approach was also adopted, you will still get the result that you desire without incurring this kind of a backlash. For example, I have read the code of conduct, or document of the Anambra Council of Traditional Rulers. I've also read the law. There is an extant law, for Anambra traditional rulers. I think it was enacted in 2007 and then revalidated in 2020. If you notice, 2007, Soludo wasn't the governor. It was Peter Obi. 2020, Soludo still wasn't the governor. Okay. It was Willie Obiano. He hasn't even modified the law. So he is implementing the law he saw. And the implementation is what is bringing up all these issues now. What does the law say? What does the code of conduct say? It says if you want to confer a chieftaincy title on anybody, you need to write the town of origin of the recipient. And the reason for that is obvious, is to be sure that you are not conferring an honorary title on somebody that is perhaps an outlaw. And the traditional rulers agreed with that and signed it into law. You know, they were part of the process of generating that under Peter Obi and modifying it under Obiano. And Igwe Achebe himself also signed the code of conduct. That, you know, the code of conduct and the law where all these things, all these conditions are stipulated. So, you know, but many of the Igwe in Anambra have observed these laws, the code of conduct and the Anambra State Traditional Council's law. They have observed the express provisions of these laws in breach. And the government is trying to restore order and order to ensure that there is decency, there is order, there is process. And of course, people have read all manner of, people have read into it, political meaning and order. I don't want to go into the political dimensions of it.
But there is.
Yeah, well, that becomes somebody's opinion. You know, I would have been taking in into that arena of political permutations if the laws, if the code of conduct, you know, if they did not provide the express process that ought to be followed, you know, that were clearly violated. So I may find it difficult faulting the commissioner because he was within the law. You know, however, I am not happy that Igwe Achebe had to, you know, resort to social media. He said that, you know, people said that he resorted to social media to communicate his grievances on behalf of the Igwe that were suspended. You know, he said that had been the process. Two wrongs don't make it right.
But in his letter,
yes,
he clearly insinuated that there were text messages exchanged between him and the governor.
Yes.
Therefore, you know, that's not necessarily resorting to social media. However, what has ilked many is the language that as contained in that letter that meant to have addressed a distinguished senator of Anambra State origin as someone unknown or a mere person.
Very wrong. Yes.
So you
yes.
know, so I think that part really ached a lot of people.
Yeah, it did.
That's also
it me too, because a serving senator, two-term senator, you know, cannot be an unknown quantity. Whoever claims that such a personality is an unknown quantity is not a part of this world, this part of the world.
Exactly.
You know, so that for me is inelegant, but it does not vitiate the fact that the message conveyed were actually as stipulated by the law.
Anyway, Yago.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
The pleasure is mine, always.
You.